The sun bled over the horizon, a swollen red eye staring down at the world, as if mourning what it had seen. The graveyard stretched endlessly across the fog-drowned valley, a forest of crooked crosses and silent stone angels. At the very center, a girl in black knelt before a crumbling tomb, her pale hair catching the crimson light like strands of silver soaked in blood. She did not move, she did not breathe. Only the wind whispered her name. Evelyn. Evelyn Grace had come back to Hollow's End after 15 long years. She swore she'd never return, not after what happened that winter night, the night her sister Lila disappeared. Everyone said Lila ran away. Evelyn knew better. Lila had been taken. The old church bell tolled once in the distance. Crows erupted from the tombstones like black ashes. Evelyn raised her head, her hands trembling. Her sister's grave was empty. The town of Hollow's End. Hollow's End was the kind of town that died decades ago but refused to stay buried. The streets were lined with boarded windows and broken lampposts. The air always smelled faintly of wet earth and something metallic, like rust or blood. When Evelyn walked through the town that morning, no one looked at her directly. An old woman crossed herself. A child dropped her toy and ran inside. She had become a ghost among the living. At the Raven's Hollow Inn, she found a dusty room and an even dustier owner, Mrs. Whitlock, who remembered everything that should have been forgotten. "You shouldn't have come back, Evelyn Grace," Mrs. Whitlock rasped, lighting a candle that flickered in the draft. "This town remembers its dead, even when it shouldn't." Evelyn tried to smile. "I came to visit my sister's grave." The woman froze. "There's no grave for the dead that never rest." The letter that night, Evelyn unpacked the letter that had brought her back to Hollow's End. It had no return address, only a line written in crimson ink, greater than, "Your sister still walks beneath the red moon." Evelyn had laughed at first, until she saw the handwriting. It was Lila's. The next evening, Evelyn returned to the cemetery, the same one in her dreams. The red sun hung low, fat and dripping behind a curtain of black clouds. The iron gates groaned open, and a cold mist curled around her boots. She followed the rows of graves until she reached the heart of the burial ground, where red flowers, blood lilies, glowed faintly among the tombs. Each bloom pulsed as if it had a heartbeat. And then she saw her. A figure stood at the far end, tall and motionless among the crosses. Long, dark cloak, skin pale as frost. When the figure turned, the dying light caught the curve of lips, far too red to be natural. "You shouldn't have come here," the woman said softly. "Not when the moon bleeds." Evelyn stepped back. "Who are you?" "A guardian," the woman smiled, revealing the faintest glint of fangs. "And a prisoner." Her name was Seraphine, and she had been bound to this graveyard for over 200 years, by a curse older than the town itself. "Greater than the lilies you see," Seraphine whispered. "They grow from blood. Every red moon, the ground drinks what it's owed." Evelyn's heart pounded. "What does that mean?" "Greater than, it means your sister didn't die. She was claimed long before Hollow's End was built. The land had belonged to a coven, not of witches, but of creatures who walk between life and death. Vampires who worship the Crimson God, an ancient being that demanded a sacrifice under every red moon. When the settlers came, they buried the coven alive beneath the churchyard, sealing their hunger under stone. But blood remembers. Now every century when the moon bleeds, one soul from the Grace family is taken to renew the seal. Evelyn felt the world tilt. Her family, cursed. Her sister, a sacrifice. And now the red moon had risen again. "You can still break it," Seraphine said, "but it requires blood freely given." Evelyn's voice shook. Mine? Seraphine smiled sadly. Yes, or the town will drown in the dead once more. The whisper beneath the earth. That night, the wind carried whispers through the graves, soft, childlike voices that called Evelyn's name. She followed them until the ground trembled beneath her feet. Cracks opened in the soil. A faint red glow seeped through. And then, from the earth itself, a hand reached out. Small, pale, familiar, greater than Evelyn. It was Lila, but her eyes burned with red light. The wind screamed across the graveyard like 1,000 mourning voices. The soil writhed under Evelyn's feet as if the earth itself rejected what was clawing its way up. Her heart thudded in her chest. She stumbled backward, but she couldn't look away. The hand, Lila's hand, was cold, white as marble, and smeared with blood-dark earth. Evelyn, help me. Her sister's voice was soft, fragile, like wind chimes in winter. But there was something hollow in it, something wrong. Evelyn knelt, tears burning her eyes, and grabbed Lila's wrist. Hold on, I'll pull you out. But when she pulled, the ground gave way. Not soil, not stone, something alive. It pulsed like flesh, slick and cold. Red veins glowed through the cracks, snaking out across the graves. And then the voice changed. Greater than, you came back. Just like she said you would. The voice that spoke now wasn't Lila's. It was older, hungrier. The pale hand clamped around Evelyn's arm, and she screamed. But before she could break free, a blur of black shadow swept between them. Seraphine. The vampire's eyes gleamed like shards of the dying sun. With one motion, she slashed her palm and pressed it to the ground. The earth hissed. Smoke rose. The hand recoiled. Greater than, go back to your grave, Seraphine snarled. Your time is not yet. The soil sealed itself again, and the graveyard went silent, except for Evelyn's ragged breathing. Blood oaths inside the mausoleum. Seraphine lit a single candle. The flame burned blue. Evelyn sat against the wall, her arms trembling, her mind spinning. That wasn't my sister, she whispered. Seraphine's eyes softened. It was what remains of her. The Crimson God keeps the bodies alive, but not the souls. Evelyn looked up. You said I could break the curse. How? Seraphine traced the edge of a cracked stone tablet, carved with a language older than English. Greater than, you must find the Heartstone. It lies beneath the old church. It's the seal that binds the dead. Destroy it before the next red moon, or, she paused. Greater than, or the Crimson God will take you, too. Hollow's End after dark. The next night, the town looked even deader than before. The lamps flickered, and shadows moved without their owners. Evelyn walked the empty streets toward the church, an ancient building leaning like a drunkard under the red sky. The doors creaked open. Inside, the pews were rotting, and the stained glass windows bled light in strange patterns. Crucifixes warped into circles, angels missing their eyes. A priest sat at the altar, Father Marin. He looked too young to belong in such an old church, his hair black, his face sharp. You shouldn't wander alone, Miss Grace, he said, his voice smooth as silk. The night remembers blood. Evelyn frowned. Do you know me? Everyone here remembers the Grace sisters. One vanished, one ran. He smiled, a strange, knowing smile. But some stories don't end where they're buried. The secret beneath. That night, Evelyn broke into the crypt beneath the church. The air was heavy with centuries of decay. Cobwebs hung like shrouds. Her lantern flickered, and shadows swayed like living things. She found the Heartstone deep within a circular chamber, a black crystal pulsing with red veins, embedded in an altar carved with symbols that seemed to move if you looked too long. A whisper filled the chamber. Evelyn, You can free us. The whispers came from the walls, from the bones. She raised her hammer, but before she could strike, a hand caught her wrist. Father Marin. Only now his eyes glowed red. Greater than, "You shouldn't have come here," he said softly. "The Heartstone doesn't seal the curse, Evelyn. It feeds it." He smiled, lips parting to reveal sharp, perfect fangs. "And tonight, it's hungry." The awakening. The Heartstone began to throb like a beating heart. The walls bled. The floor split open, revealing coffins, ancient, rotted. And from each one, something stirred. Dozens of pale figures crawled out, their eyes blazing red, their mouths dripping black blood. Evelyn screamed, swinging the lantern. Flames burst across the floor. Seraphine appeared in the smoke, her cloak flaring like wings. "Greater than, get back!" she shouted. The two women fought side by side as the undead surged forward. Seraphine moving with supernatural grace, claws tearing through corpses, her fangs flashing like silver. Evelyn struck with anything she could find, shards of wood, the iron cross from the altar. But Father Marin was too strong. He caught Seraphine by the throat and lifted her. "Greater than, traitor," he hissed. "You were meant to serve the Crimson God, not fight him." Seraphine gasped, her skin blistering in the glow of the Heartstone. "Then I'll die. Free." With her last strength, she threw a dagger. It struck the crystal dead center. The Heartstone screamed. Light, blood red and blinded, exploded through the chamber. Aftermath. When Evelyn woke, she was lying outside the church. The air was still, the sky bruised with dawn. The church was gone. Only a crater remained, smoldering and black. Seraphine was gone too. But in her hand, Evelyn found a note, written in crimson ink. "Greater than, the Crimson God never dies. He only sleeps. When the red moon rises again, you must choose your life or the world." And at the bottom, a single drop of blood pressed into the paper. Evelyn closed her eyes. She knew what she had to do. The curse wasn't broken, it had only shifted. And now it lived in her. The dawn in Hollow's End never low.